They came from the stars, known across 10 galaxies as the most ruthless criminals alive. The Sarn Syndicate. Their leader, Korthal, had burned planets, enslaved species, and escaped every trap the Galactic Police had ever set for him. Now his ship, the Blood Serpent, drifted through the dark void, wounded and smoking from a failed heist near the Terran exclusion zone. The crew shouted in fear as alarms screamed. Energy readings dropped to 0. They needed a place to hide and repair. The navigation system searched for the nearest planet with breathable air and found one. A small blue world, primitive, unguarded, forgotten by the galactic maps. Earth. Korthal sneered when he heard the name. Perfect, he growled. A quiet rock filled with weak creatures. We'll land, fix the ship, and leave before anyone notices. The Blood Serpent entered the atmosphere, fire streaking behind it as it crashed through thick clouds. They landed hard in a dense forest, trees breaking under the weight of the massive ship. The ground shook for miles. Birds screamed and scattered into the sky. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the aliens stepped out. Their armor gleamed black and red, marked with the scars of hundreds of battles. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Around them, the forest was quiet, too quiet. The wind whispered through the trees, like a warning. Korthal looked around, unimpressed. "This planet smells of mud and weakness," he said. His second-in-command, Jorvok, scanned the area with a handheld device. No cities within 100 kilometers. Just animals and wilderness. Easy to control. The crew laughed. They set up camp, dragging out weapons and supplies. Some started cutting trees to make room for the ship's repairs. Others hunted nearby creatures for food. They joked about how soft and stupid these humans must be, still using metal and fire. But as the night fell, the laughter faded. Strange noises echoed from the woods, low growls, distant footsteps, and the snap of branches. The aliens stood alert, their weapons raised. Probably animals, one muttered. But when they checked the scanners, something was wrong. The sensors flickered, showing movement all around them. Hundreds of small, fast shapes. No life forms detected, the device said, then glitched out completely. The forest went silent again. Korthal ordered 2 of his soldiers to scout the area. They left with flashlights and blasters. Minutes passed. Then an hour. They never came back. The search team followed, but only found the scouts' weapons lying on the ground, still warm. No blood. No tracks. Nothing. Panic spread through the crew. Korthal snarled, smashing his communicator against the ship wall. "It's just this cursed planet's interference. Keep working." But even as he spoke, he felt something watching him. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't the wind. It was intelligent, cold, and patient. Inside the ship, systems began to fail one by one. The power core dimmed, navigation shut down, and the ship's AI started speaking in broken sentences. "Warning, foreign interference detected, unknown source." Then the lights flickered off completely. The alien stumbled in darkness. Someone screamed outside. Blaster fire flashed for a few seconds. Then silence returned. When the lights finally came back, 3 more of Korthal's men were gone. No bodies. No signs of a struggle. Only small footprints in the mud. Human footprints. "Impossible," Jorvok whispered. "They can't even reach us. Their technology." "Silence," Korthal growled, but his voice trembled slightly. He ordered everyone to gather around the ship. "No one leaves the camp," he said. "Whatever these creatures are, they'll learn what it means to face the Sarn Syndicate." He raised his weapon toward the dark forest and fired a warning shot. The blast echoed across the valley. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from somewhere deep within the trees, a voice replied. It was calm, cold, and in perfect galactic standard. "Leave. Now." The aliens froze. No translator. No static. Just a human voice, speaking their own language perfectly. Korthal looked at his soldiers. None moved. "Who said that?" he shouted. No one answered. The forest seemed to breathe around them, alive and aware. The voice came again, closer this time. "You don't belong here." Then silence. The aliens fired wildly into the trees, lighting up the night with plasma bolts. Smoke and sparks filled the air. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing there. Only the sound of wind. Corthal's breathing grew heavy. Something deep inside him whispered to leave this place. But pride burned stronger. "No one threatens me," he snarled. "We'll hunt them down. All of them." He turned to his men. "Prepare the search teams." But even as he spoke, the forest lights flickered again, unnatural flashes moving between the trees like eyes. The aliens raised their weapons. None of them noticed the faint movement above, shadows slipping through the canopy, circling closer. In the distance, a small group of humans watched silently through night vision goggles. One of them whispered, "Phase 1 complete. Let's see how long the monsters last." Corthal felt a chill crawl down his spine. For the first time in his life, the most feared criminal in the galaxy wondered if he had finally found a world that could not be conquered. By morning, the forest around the crash site was silent, thick with fog and tension. The Sarn Syndicate had lost 5 soldiers overnight, and no one could explain how. Their weapons were untouched, their armor still powered, yet they had vanished like smoke. Corthal stood near the ship's ramp, eyes burning red with anger and fear. "Something's out there," he growled. His second-in-command, Jorvok, nodded but said nothing. The crew was breaking. The mighty syndicate that once burned worlds was now afraid of shadows. While repairing the engines, one alien noticed something strange near the landing site, symbols carved into a nearby tree. Corthal went to see. The markings were deep, clear, and written in an alien language none of them used, English. The words read, "Leave now." The crew stared in silence. Jorvok tried to laugh. "Maybe local savages trying to scare us." But his voice shook. Corthal touched the carving. The wood was still warm, as if made only moments ago. "They know we're here," he muttered, "and they speak our tongue." The aliens doubled their guard. Drones flew above the forest, scanning for life, but their screens showed nothing. The forest itself was hiding something. Hours passed in uneasy silence. Suddenly, a high-pitched sound filled the air. The drones froze mid-flight, then dropped like stones, lifeless. Sparks flew. Corthal cursed and ordered a full diagnostic. Every communication device flickered, showing human words for a second before shutting off completely. "Connection lost," the AI repeated. "Signal jammed by external source." The crew tried to restart the systems, but failed. They didn't know the source of the interference was coming from below the ground. The humans were already watching, already listening. That night, thick fog rolled into the camp. The forest disappeared behind white mist. Visibility dropped to 0. The aliens stood close to each other, weapons raised. Through the fog, shapes began to appear, tall, thin silhouettes standing perfectly still. "Movement detected," a soldier shouted, firing into the mist. The plasma bolts burned through the air, but hit nothing. The shapes didn't move. "Thermal scans," Corthal demanded. "Negative," Jorvok replied. "They don't register as alive." "Then what are they?" "I don't know." The fog began to shift. The shapes were gone, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. One soldier stepped away to check the perimeter. He walked only 10 meters before vanishing into the mist. His screams echoed a moment later, cut short. When they found him, his armor was still on, but his eyes were open, empty, staring, and white. No wounds, no burns, just gone inside. Corthal's anger snapped. "Enough hiding. Show yourselves, cowards." His voice boomed through the valley. The fog moved again. Then a metallic sound came from the darkness, a quiet buzzing, mechanical and sharp. A drone, small and black, appeared above the trees. It had no markings, no lights. Just one single red lens glowing in the center. The aliens opened fire, but the drone didn't fall. It moved too fast, weaving through their shots like it could predict them. It hovered above the camp for several seconds, scanning every face, every weapon. Then it turned toward Corthal and stopped. For a moment, everything froze. The leader of the most feared criminal group in the galaxy stared into that single red eye. He felt studied, judged. Then the drone blinked and vanished into the fog, leaving behind only silence. The next moment, every weapon in the camp shut down. Energy cores drained to 0. Lights flickered out. The aliens stood in complete darkness, their suits cold and heavy. "This planet's technology, it's interfering." Jorvok shouted. "No," Korthal said quietly. "This isn't interference. It's control." The ground shook suddenly. A deep rumble spread under their feet, and a low hum filled the air, like a heartbeat echoing through the forest. Something ancient and mechanical was waking beneath them. The aliens stumbled as trees shook and leaves fell like rain. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped, and from the darkness, they saw them, humans. Dozens of them, wearing black suits with no symbols, no faces visible behind dark helmets. They stood motionless, just watching. The aliens raised their weapons, but the humans didn't move. "Identify yourselves," Korthal demanded. No response. One of his soldiers aimed and fired. The blast hit one of the humans directly, but instead of falling, the beam bent midair, curved, and shot back, striking the shooter in the chest. He fell instantly, smoke rising from his armor. The humans didn't flinch. Not a single one. They simply turned and disappeared into the fog. The aliens shouted, firing in every direction, but it was useless. The humans had vanished like ghosts. Korthal's rage was gone now, replaced with cold fear. "This is no primitive world," he whispered. "They knew we were coming." "Should we retreat?" Jorvok asked. Korthal looked up at the sky, but his ship's engines were still offline. "We can't. Not yet. But whatever this planet is hiding, we'll find it." He didn't notice that one of the human figures still watched from the trees. Through the soldier's helmet, a calm voice spoke through a comms line. "Phase 2 complete. The subjects are showing fear. Proceed to isolation protocol." The humans moved silently through the fog, surrounding the camp. Their presence was everywhere and nowhere. Inside the ship, the AI flickered back to life for a moment, whispering a single warning. "You are being observed." Korthal turned, his heart pounding. He looked out into the endless white mist and whispered, "What kind of monsters are these humans?" By the third day, the forest had grown darker. The sunlight barely reached the ground, and the fog refused to lift. The Sarn Syndicate was trapped, and they knew it. Their ship, once feared across galaxies, sat powerless and broken. No engines, no shields, no signal. The once loud camp had fallen silent. Even the criminals who once laughed at death now whispered in fear. Korthal stood near the ship's hull, staring at the black sky. "This planet is alive," he muttered. "It knows we are here." Jorvok approached him with trembling hands. "Leader, the gravity stabilizers won't disengage. It's as if something is holding the ship down." Korthal frowned. "You mean the ground?" "No," Jorvok said quietly. "I mean the planet itself." The crew tried to lift the ship again, but every time they powered the engines, a strange force pulled it back. It was invisible, silent, and unstoppable. They could feel it pressing against the hull, like an unseen hand. The ground beneath the ship vibrated faintly, as if something massive slept below. By nightfall, the temperature dropped sharply. Frost crept across the ship's metal surface. The aliens gathered around fire pits, their armor steaming in the cold. They spoke in low voices about the humans, those silent figures in black. Some claimed they weren't human at all, but something else pretending to be. Others believed Earth was cursed, a prison for cosmic horrors. No one laughed anymore. Suddenly, one of the guards began to scream. His armor glowed red, systems overloading. Sparks burst from his helmet before he collapsed, shaking violently. When they tore the helmet off, his eyes were rolled back, and he whispered over and over, "They're in my head. They're in my head." The medical officer scanned him and gasped. The neural circuits of his armor had been remotely hacked. Somehow someone, or something, had entered his mind through his own tech. They shut down all helmets, all communication links, but it was too late. The voice began to echo in their minds, soft, distant, human. "Why did you come here?" it asked. Korthal shouted back, though no one was there. "Who are you? Show yourself." The voice only laughed. "We already have." That night, they saw lights in the sky, not stars, but hundreds of small glowing objects moving in perfect formation. At first, they thought they were drones. But when one fell close to the camp, they saw it wasn't a machine. It was an eye. A floating metallic sphere with a living human eye inside, scanning them silently before burning itself to ash. The aliens backed away in horror. "This isn't war," Jorvok said. "It's a test." The next day, hallucinations began. Some aliens claimed they saw the faces of their victims, staring from the trees, people they had killed years ago. Others said they heard whispers in their own language, telling them to confess. One soldier walked into the forest and never came back. The few who went looking for him returned pale and shaking, refusing to speak. Korthal tried to rally them, shouting that they were warriors, not children afraid of ghosts. But his voice no longer carried power. His crew looked at him not as a leader, but as a doomed man trying to fight the inevitable. Then the ground started humming again. The entire forest vibrated like a heartbeat. The sound grew deeper until it filled their chests. The ship's metal frame groaned under pressure. Every light flickered on and off. Then, from the ship's main console, a message appeared on the cracked screen. Words typed in perfect galactic standard. "Do you understand fear now?" The crew froze. None had typed it. No one had control. Korthal's claws tightened around his blaster. "Who are you?" he shouted. The screen replied instantly. "We are the consequence." Suddenly, the ship's alarm screamed. The outer hull was melting, as if touched by acid. They rushed outside to see a strange mist crawling over the metal, eating through it silently. They tried to blast it with plasma, but the shots passed through harmlessly. The mist climbed higher, coating the ship until it looked like it was being swallowed by the planet itself. Panic erupted. The criminals fired in every direction, screaming, running for cover. The forest seemed to close in on them. Trees moved. Roots rose from the ground, wrapping around fallen aliens. Korthal shouted orders, but no one listened. The syndicate that had destroyed worlds was now being devoured by one. Hours later, the survivors regrouped. Only 20 remained. They sat inside the dark ship, shivering, whispering prayers in languages long forgotten. Jorvok approached Korthal slowly. "We can't win this. Whatever these humans are, they're not fighting us. They're studying us." Korthal turned his gaze toward the broken view window. Outside, the forest glowed faintly under the moonlight. He could almost see movement, shadows walking just beyond sight. "If they want to study me," he said quietly, "then I'll give them something to remember." He armed his blaster and stepped outside. The air was thick, heavy with silence. Every step echoed. "I know you can hear me," he shouted into the forest. "You think you can break me? You think you can scare me?" For a long moment, nothing answered. Then a voice came, soft and close, right behind him. "No," it said. "We think you can learn." Korthal spun around and fired, but the shot hit nothing. He saw only empty fog. Yet he could feel the presence all around him, eyes watching from every direction. He dropped to one knee, breathing heavily, realizing the truth. They hadn't landed on a helpless world. They had landed in a trap. A perfect, patient trap set by humans. A world designed not to destroy their enemies, but to understand them, to change them, to break them from the inside. As the fog swallowed him whole, his last thought before darkness took him was simple and cold. The galaxy had always feared us, but maybe we feared the wrong species all along. When dawn came, it brought no light. The fog had thickened into a gray wall, sealing the Sarn Syndicate inside a prison of silence. Only 10 of them were left now, their armor scorched, their eyes hollow. Korthal sat on a rock near the broken ship, staring at the black sky above. The forest had gone quiet again, but it was not peace, it was waiting. Every sound, every movement, felt like part of something watching them. Jorvok approached carefully. "Leader," he whispered, "we found something beneath the surface." Korthal looked up. "What do you mean?" "There's a tunnel, hidden under the ship's landing gear. Metal walls, not natural. Human-made." For a long moment, Korthal said nothing. Then he stood. "Show me." They moved the heavy panels aside and found a round hatch buried under dirt and roots. It was old, marked with strange letters, English again, but this time, the words were burned into the steel. "Property of Earth Defense Command." Jorvok frowned. This world shouldn't even have an interstellar force. Korthal placed his claw on the cold surface. Maybe it used to. The hatch opened with a deep hiss, and a cold metallic wind blew upward. The air smelled of dust and electricity. They descended into the tunnel, lights flickering from their armor. The deeper they went, the more advanced the walls became. Smooth steel, fiber lines, old but powerful. It wasn't ruins. It was something still alive. The tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Lights turned on one by one, glowing white, illuminating the space. In the center stood rows of glass tubes, filled with strange liquid. Inside each tube was a body. Alien bodies from dozens of different species, preserved perfectly, their faces frozen in expressions of horror. Experiments, Jorvok whispered. They've been studying us for years. Korthal walked slowly among the tubes. Some of the creatures he recognized, pirates, mercenaries, killers. All were known across the galaxy as dangerous. All had disappeared without trace. Now they were here, silent and suspended. These are the missing syndicates, Korthal muttered. Every one that vanished near this sector. He turned toward a control panel nearby. It was still active. The screen blinked with words. Automated research system, status, running. He pressed a button, and the monitors around the room came alive. Videos played, grainy recordings of human scientists in white coats. Subject 12, resists mental simulation. Increased psychological feedback. Subject 34, exhibits signs of cooperation after 72 hours of isolation. The recordings switched to live feeds. Humans talking calmly to terrified aliens behind glass walls. They weren't torturing them. They were studying how they broke, how they submitted, how fear changed them. They're not warriors, Jorvok said. They're scientists. No, Korthal replied, eyes cold. They're predators of the mind. The sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber. The alien spun around, weapons raised. From the shadows, a single human figure stepped forward. He wore no armor, no weapon, just a simple black uniform with a white emblem on the chest, a circle around a blue planet. His face was hidden behind a smooth, silver mask. You made it further than most, the man said calmly. His voice echoed softly, filled with a strange calm that froze their blood. Who are you? Korthal demanded. The masked figure tilted his head. That depends. Who are you? Korthal snarled. We are the Sarn Syndicate. We've conquered worlds you've never dreamed of. The human took a step closer. And yet here you are, scared, hungry, lost. Why? Korthal raised his blaster. Enough games. The man didn't move. You came here because you thought Earth was weak, he said quietly. Every predator does. They see a quiet world and think it's easy prey. But we learned something long ago. He paused, his voice lowering. To survive the universe, you must become worse than the universe. He gestured toward the glass tubes around them. These were the ones who tried before you. You'll join them soon. Korthal fired. The bolt hit the man's chest, but instead of burning through, the energy dispersed harmlessly across the air. The figure flickered like a projection. Hologram, Jorvok muttered. The man's image smiled faintly. You can't hurt what's already everywhere. The lights dimmed. A low hum filled the air. From behind the walls, mechanical arms began to move, detaching the tubes, opening containment doors. Inside, the preserved aliens started to twitch. The fluid drained, and their eyes snapped open. They were alive, but not as they once were. Their bodies moved stiffly, their skin pale and veins dark. Controlled. Reprogrammed. The humans had brought them back as living weapons. They're using the dead, Jorvok whispered. No, Korthal said. They're using us. The reanimated aliens stepped out, their faces blank, eyes glowing faint blue. One by one, they turned toward the syndicate. Korthal roared, firing into them. Plasma bolts tore through flesh, but the fallen rose again. There was no blood, no sound, only the hum of machines. We have to leave. Jorvok shouted. Korthal nodded, leading the survivors toward the tunnel. As they ran, the holographic man's voice followed them, calm and cold. We don't hate you, Korthal. We study you, Because we need to understand what the galaxy fears most. That's how humanity survives. They reached the surface, just as the ground began to shake again. The facility below them started to collapse, swallowed by fire and dust. The ship remained powerless, but the fog was gone. The forest was eerily clear now, as if the planet had shown them its heart and was waiting for their next move. Korthal looked toward the horizon, breathing heavily. He finally understood the truth. Earth wasn't weak. Earth was bait, a perfect trap, built to catch the monsters the galaxy couldn't stop. He turned to Jorvok. We leave this cursed world, or we die here. But deep down, he already knew leaving might not be possible. Somewhere beneath their feet, the human voice whispered one last time, almost like a promise. You can run, but you can never forget what Earth taught you. Korthal woke in darkness. His head pounded, his limbs heavy, his body pinned by cold steel restraints. For a moment, he thought he was still inside the ship. But then he heard it. The hum of machines, the steady rhythm of human footsteps, and the faint sound of breathing that wasn't his own. The air was clean, sterile, almost too perfect. His eyes adjusted to the light as a metal door slid open. A human stepped inside, tall and calm, wearing the same black uniform with the Earth emblem. His face was uncovered this time, emotionless, his eyes sharp but not cruel. You're awake, the man said. His voice was steady, measured, as if he were speaking to a guest rather than a prisoner. Where are my men? Korthal snarled, struggling against the restraints. The man didn't answer. He tapped a small screen on his wrist, and a transparent wall lit up behind him. Through it, Korthal could see his surviving crew, Jorvok and 3 others, each in separate rooms, all strapped to chairs like him. They were awake but silent, their faces pale. They're alive, the human said. For now. Korthal growled. You dare hold us? Do you know who we are? The man looked directly into his eyes. Yes, the Sarn Syndicate, the galaxy's most feared criminals. Murderers, smugglers, destroyers of worlds. He paused. We've been waiting for you. Korthal froze. Waiting? Your ship didn't crash by accident, the man said calmly. We pulled you here. Earth is a restricted zone for a reason. Every predator who crosses into this system is brought here. We don't chase them across space. We let them come to us. Korthal's blood ran cold. You lured us here? The man nodded once. We study those who think they can conquer. We learn how they break. Korthal struggled harder. You think you can scare me with words? I've killed thousands. The human didn't raise his voice. He simply pressed another button. The walls around them flickered, and the room changed. Suddenly, Korthal wasn't in a cell. He was standing on a battlefield, a perfect holographic recreation of one of his past massacres. The burning ruins of a city surrounded him, alien screams echoing from every direction. His blaster was in his hand again, but when he looked closer, he realized the faces of the people he'd slaughtered were watching him, whispering his name. Stop this, he roared. Turn it off. The human voice echoed from everywhere at once. No, you will watch. The hologram didn't end. It shifted again, this time showing his own soldiers dying one by one, begging for help as invisible figures dragged them into the fog. He fired at the illusions, but his weapon passed through. You want to understand humans? The voice said. Then understand this. We don't fight for conquest. We fight for survival. And survival demands we become something that terrifies even monsters like you. The illusion dissolved. Korthal fell to his knees, breathing heavily. The restraints were gone, but he couldn't move. He looked up at the human, who now stood only a few feet away. You don't kill us, Korthal said weakly. You change us. The man's face softened slightly, almost like pity. Death teaches nothing, but fear reshapes the mind. He gestured toward the other rooms, where Korthal's men were now screaming as the same illusions consumed them. They're seeing their own truths, their own crimes. You're no better than us, Korthal spat. You torture. No, the man replied quietly. We reflect. Korthal felt something break inside him. For the first time, the leader of the galaxy's most feared syndicate couldn't find his anger. He felt small, powerless against the silent human logic. "Why?" he whispered. "Why not kill us and end it?" The man took a slow breath. "Because killing you would make us like you. We study the monsters, so we never become them. You're a lesson, not a threat." The human turned to leave, but Korthal shouted after him, "You think this makes you strong? You think fear makes you gods?" The man stopped at the doorway. "No," he said simply. "Fear makes us ready." The door slid shut, and Korthal was left alone in the dim light. Hours passed, maybe days. He couldn't tell. No food, no sound, just silence. The absence of noise became its own kind of torture. His mind replayed every word, every face, every scream he'd ever caused. He tried to sleep, but his dreams were filled with human eyes staring at him. At some point, the door opened again. The same man entered, holding a small metal cup of water. He placed it on the floor in front of Korthal. "Drink," he said. Korthal glared at him, but took it. His hands trembled. "What now?" he asked. "Now," the human said. "You understand." "Understand what?" "That power means nothing without control. That fear doesn't rule humans, it serves them." Korthal didn't respond. He looked down at his reflection in the water. For the first time, he saw fear not as a weapon, but as a chain. He finally whispered, "Let us go." The man studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "You can leave. Your ship will be repaired. But you'll never speak of this place." Korthal blinked, confused. "Why?" "Because no one would believe you," the man said. "And if they did, they'd never come here again." As the human turned to go, Korthal shouted one last question. "What are you?" The man paused at the door and looked back, his expression calm, almost proud. "We're what the universe made us," he said, "and what you made us fear to become." The door closed softly, leaving Korthal alone with his thoughts. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like a conqueror. He felt like a lesson, a warning carved into the silence of a world that had learned how to break monsters without a single shot fired. When the heavy doors opened again, Korthal expected pain, punishment, or another illusion meant to crush his spirit. Instead, two humans entered the room, without a word. Their faces were hidden behind glass helmets, their movements silent and precise. One of them pressed a command on a wrist device, and the restraints holding Korthal clicked open. The cold steel bands fell away, leaving deep marks on his wrists. He stared at them in disbelief, unsure if this was another trick. "Stand," one of the humans ordered calmly. Korthal hesitated, then obeyed. His legs trembled as he rose. For the first time since his capture, he felt the weight of exhaustion heavier than any chain. "Follow," the human said. The door slid open, revealing a bright corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were smooth silver, pulsing faintly with white light. No guards, no weapons, just silence. They walked through several levels, past rooms filled with strange machines, glowing data screens, and shadowy figures watching from behind one-way glass. Every step echoed like a warning. Korthal realized that the humans didn't need guards. Their world itself was the prison. When they finally reached an open chamber, Korthal froze. His ship, the black, scarred vessel of the Sarn Syndicate, was there, restored. The damage from the crash was gone. Its engines hummed softly, ready for flight. His remaining crew stood beside it, silent, their faces pale and hollow. They looked like ghosts. "You are free to go," the human commander said from behind him. It was the same man as before, the one who had interrogated him. Calm, cold, unshaken. "Why?" Korthal asked slowly. "You could destroy us." The man's eyes were steady. "We don't destroy what we can change." "Change?" Korthal growled. "You broke us." The man tilted his head slightly. "No, we showed you yourselves. You did the breaking." Korthal clenched his fists, but said nothing. He wanted to hate this man, this species that had humiliated him, but the fire inside was gone. All that remained was confusion and a faint sense of respect, the kind that comes from surviving something beyond understanding. "If we leave," he said, "what stops us from telling others about this?" The human smiled faintly. "Fear." Korthal didn't argue. He turned to his crew. They avoided his eyes. They looked weaker, smaller, like soldiers who had seen too much. He could feel their silence. It wasn't loyalty anymore. It was surrender. One of them whispered, "Captain, can we just go?" Corthell gave a small nod. Together they walked toward the ship. Before boarding, he turned one last time to face the human commander. "You think this will keep others away?" The man's expression didn't change. "It already has. You're not the first to come here." Those words hit Corthell harder than any weapon. "What happened to the others?" he asked. The human looked him dead in the eye. "You'll meet them. Out there." Without another word, the man stepped back as the hangar gates opened. The massive steel doors slid apart, revealing the night sky of Earth. It was breathtaking, blue oceans glowing in the distance, clouds swirling with lightning far below. A planet both beautiful and terrifying. The Sarn ship rose slowly from the platform, engines igniting with a deep, trembling roar. As it ascended, Corthell looked down one last time at the human base, shrinking beneath him. He couldn't understand how such a small world could carry such power. When they cleared the atmosphere, silence filled the bridge. No one spoke. The stars stretched before them, endless and empty. But the crew didn't cheer or celebrate. They didn't even look at each other. Finally, Jorvok broke the silence. "Captain, what now?" Corthell stared out at the stars. "We don't return to the Syndicate," he said. "Not yet." Jorvok frowned. "They'll think we're cowards." "Let them," Corthell muttered. "They have no idea what waits on that planet." The others nodded weakly. No one wanted to go back. Something inside all of them had changed, a shadow in their minds they couldn't erase. For hours they drifted in space, silent, lost in thought. Corthell couldn't shake the memory of those human eyes, calm and cold, reflecting everything he feared about himself. Eventually, he opened a comm channel to the Syndicate homeworld. A holographic figure appeared, an elder with sharp eyes and cruel lips. "Corthell," the elder said, "you've been silent for days. Did you conquer the humans?" Corthell hesitated. Every instinct told him to lie, to preserve his pride. But when he opened his mouth, the words came out hollow. "The humans are not what we thought." The elder frowned. "Explain." Corthell looked down. "You wouldn't believe me." The elder laughed harshly. "You lost to them." Corthell didn't answer. He simply cut the transmission. Around him, the crew looked uneasy. "Captain," Jorvok said quietly, "they'll send more ships." Corthell's voice was low. "Let them." He leaned back in his chair, eyes locked on the distant blue planet, shrinking in the dark. "They'll learn what we did." His words hung in the air like a curse. The Sarn ship drifted into hyperspace, its engines fading into silence. But even as the stars stretched into streaks of light, Corthell could still feel Earth watching him, like a presence that reached beyond the sky. He realized then that he hadn't escaped the humans. No one ever did. Earth didn't need walls or weapons. Its greatest power was the fear it left behind, and that fear, he knew, would spread faster than any warship ever could. When the Sarn ship emerged from hyperspace, the crew felt as if the galaxy itself had changed. The stars looked dimmer, the silence heavier. Corthell sat in his command chair, eyes locked on the glowing outline of their homeworld. It should have felt like victory, like coming home after a successful mission. But nothing felt the same. The hum of the ship sounded wrong, and even the air felt heavier, like the fear they carried from Earth had seeped into the walls. "We're approaching the Syndicate capital," Jorvok said quietly. "Do we tell them what happened?" Corthell didn't answer. He was staring at his reflection on the dark screen before him. His eyes looked older, weaker. For the first time, he didn't see a predator, he saw a survivor. "No," he said finally. "We say the humans are gone. That Earth is nothing." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They all knew it was a lie, but none of them wanted to speak the truth out loud. When the ship entered the capital's orbit, the Syndicate authorities immediately hailed them. The image of the High Council appeared on the main screen, a room filled with armored warlords and shimmering banners of conquest. "Corthell," the leader said in a deep voice, "you've been gone too long. Did you take their planet?" Corthell straightened his back and forced his voice to stay steady. The humans are unworthy of our attention. Their world is hostile, unstable. We lost many ships, but we secured resources and data. The council members murmured among themselves. The leader frowned. You lost ships to primitives? The planet itself fought us, Korthal said. The humans barely resisted. That part wasn't a lie. The humans had barely fought, but somehow they had still won. The leader's eyes narrowed. We will discuss this later. Return to the surface. The signal cut. The bridge fell silent again. Jorvok turned to Korthal. They won't believe you for long. They don't have to, Korthal said softly. They just have to stay away. The ship descended through the thick atmosphere of the Syndicate capital. Massive metal towers pierced the clouds, glowing red and gold under the planet's burning sun. Soldiers lined the landing bay as Korthal stepped out, flanked by his broken crew. The air was hot and heavy, filled with the noise of engines and shouting workers. Normally, this chaos filled him with pride. Now it made his skin crawl. Everything looked too loud, too violent. The council's guards led them through wide metal halls into the Chamber of Judgment. The High Council sat above them on raised thrones, eyes cold and cruel. Report, the leader demanded. Korthal's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. We encountered resistance, not by weapons, but by something else. The leader leaned forward. Explain. They knew we were coming, Korthal said. They weren't afraid. They let us land, let us attack, and then they trapped us, not with force, but with fear. They broke us without firing a single shot. The chamber erupted with laughter. One of the warlords sneered. Fear? You expect us to believe that you, the butcher of Cormac 9, were broken by words? You didn't see them, Korthal hissed. They don't fight like we do. They don't need to. They let us destroy ourselves. The laughter died slowly. The leader studied him carefully. What did they do to you, Korthal? Korthal took a deep breath. They showed us what we are. Monsters. We thought we ruled the stars, but they looked at us like we were insects. The leader rose from his seat. Enough. You bring back fear instead of victory. The Syndicate does not tolerate weakness. Two guards stepped forward, weapons drawn. Jorvok shouted. Wait. You don't understand. Earth is not like other worlds. The leader waved his hand. Silence. Your fear is spreading. Korthal's heart pounded. He realized what was happening. The council couldn't allow the truth to spread. They would execute them to keep others from hesitating. You fools, he said through clenched teeth. You think killing us will protect you? It won't stop them. The humans are coming. Not with warships, but with something worse. The leader raised an eyebrow. And what is that? Korthal smiled faintly, a broken, bitter smile. Understanding. The guards moved closer, but suddenly, the lights flickered. The sound of static filled the room. Every screen around them blinked to life, showing the same image, a rotating blue sphere. Earth. The leader shouted. Who hacked our system? But no one moved. The image zoomed in, showing cities, oceans, storm clouds, then faded to black. Words appeared in alien script, translated automatically by the council systems. We are watching. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. The council members looked around, unsure what to do. Korthal's heart raced. They hadn't done this. It was them, the humans. Somehow, even across the stars, they had reached the Syndicate's heart. The leader's face turned pale. End this transmission, he shouted. But the word stayed on every screen, glowing like a warning. We are watching. When the lights finally returned, Korthal was still smiling. Now you believe me, he said softly. The guards hesitated, uncertain. The leader sat down slowly, his confidence shaken. You will remain under observation, he said finally. If your words are true, then perhaps we have underestimated this species. Korthal nodded. You already have. As he was escorted out of the chamber, he looked up at the screens one last time. The image of Earth lingered faintly, as if burned into the system. Even when the screens went dark, the words remained etched in his mind. We are watching. For the first time, Korthal realized the truth. The humans didn't just protect their planet. They protected the idea of fear itself. They didn't chase their enemies. They waited. They let the universe come to them, and then they broke it piece by piece, until even the bravest learned to stay away. As the guards led him through the halls, Corthal whispered to himself, "They don't need to conquer the stars. The stars already fear them.